Welcome to the Mayor of Money podcast with former Burlington Mayor Rick Goldring, CEO of Goldring Financial Leadership. In this podcast, we provide successful business owners with cutting-edge information and strategies in the areas of estate and financial planning, including wealth and risk management. The podcast also features exclusive interviews with very successful entrepreneurs that Rick has known and worked with during his career. Now, on to the show.
So with me today on the Mayor of Money podcast is Paul Fitzgerald, and Paul is the CEO and founder of Salt and Pepper Media Inc. And Paul's been at this for a number of years, but something's pretty exciting has happened during the pandemic, which we're going to talk about. But Paul, thank you very much for agreeing to be on the Mayor of Money podcast. I've known you for a number of years, and I've been looking forward to this. And welcome to the Mayor of Money. And how have you been in the last 2.5 years? I mean, personally, it's been a challenging time at so many different levels. How have you been?
I've been really good. Of course, the pandemic wasn't always easy for a lot of us. I miss going to hockey games or out for dinner and things like that. I know there was a number of lockdowns and restrictions in place, all for the reason to, combat a global pandemic. But overall, I have to say on the personal side and professional side, I've been really growing. It's been, believe it or not, for me, it's been a very exciting time and very rewarding.
So you started your business, well, many, many years ago, doing what you're doing now, but it was much different years ago. But you've always been in that sort of media space, marketing, public relations, communications, that type of space.
Yeah.
If I go back to 3 years ago, so 3 years ago would take us back to July of 2019, 6 months or so before the pandemic, 8 months before the pandemic.
Right.
What were you up to business-wise? And what were you doing as far as the type of work were you doing? And then I want to talk about where the pandemic has taken you.
Sure. Well, this time 3 years ago, I was writing some columns, one for the Toronto Sun, the New York City Herald, the Toronto Post-Gazette, the Toronto Tribune. I also had a tech spotlight show on your TV. And I started getting some app companies calling me and other businesses, everything from really crazy, weird ice cream to Uber security like apps. And I was actually doing quite a bit of traveling as well for these clients. I didn't have a lot, but I had a good amount where I was going to New York, Los Angeles, Calgary, and Vancouver to meet clients and to do work. So that's where I was three years ago, or right around this time.
And so you were doing public relations. Were you doing any web design then, web development?
A little bit. I wouldn't say. I'd probably have to say, in the July, no. I mean, I'd done some web development earlier, kind of in the year, maybe 4 websites a year kind of thing. Some social media, but very, very on a lower scale.
Yeah. Now you've been through the financial challenges of 08, 09.
Yes.
Where we had that, the problem with the banking sector, finance sector in the States in particular, worldwide really, but the impact it had on many, many people was devastating. And you had a challenge in your business back then.
Absolutely. That was a time frame where, as you know, the automotive sector took a real hit. A lot of parts of the economy took a big hit, as did media, public relations. So a lot of things that were kind of on the chopping block for resizing or downsizing, if you will, was marketing and PR budgets. And I felt the brunt of that, unfortunately, but fortunately, you learn from it. So
we think about that in 08, 09 and the challenges that you had doing what you were doing, because companies were looking at saving money and expending resources differently. And then we fast forward to March 16th, 17th. I forget the actual date of when it happened in 2020.
2 days before St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, March 15th, where the world changed.
Yeah.
The world changed dramatically.
Yes.
And business changed for you.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, everything that, over the last decade, let's just say from 2010 till now, a little over a decade, it's been, I've been forging ahead, always posting stuff for clients. Everything I did, a column I would write about a client, a story I would get a client in the press, or a TV spot, I was always promoting, promoting, promoting. So when the pandemic hit, a lot of people who had been, I guess, silently following me, because not everybody likes everything on social media. So boom, the pandemic hits. My LinkedIn inbox, not a word of a lie, by middle of April was full. Can we book a Zoom call? I own this company. We've been following you. We need your help. We want to have our workers work remotely, but we need to increase our online brand presence. That's everything from fashion companies to apps to things like that. So where they could take out that rent and keep their employees or their contractors, or however you want to put it, working from home. And they're like, now we need your help, because we have not really delved into this Google world, the social media world. And I think too, is that a lot of companies, and this is a big striking difference over the past decade. There was a day where I would get somebody on a mom pa blog. You would still get Google traction, but a client wouldn't appreciate it because they wanted that CNN or that CBC or that Globe Mail hit. But now people are like, no, we want anything. We want traction on Google. So when someone types in our company's name, we want to fill up the first couple of pages of Google, because when we're in all sorts of different publications or TV outlets, if you whatever, people are more inclined to buy, right? It's called credibility, validity. And a lot of companies saw that they lacked that before. Sure, they had that nice office space. They had these cute vehicles and maybe motorcycles or Vespas that would drive around with their logos and things on it. And they're like, no, we don't want that anymore. We want to be online. And then I got my real kick at the can, which is
so it's interesting. You said something interesting, that people were following you, and then the pandemic hit, and people have been following a lot of your social media and
yes.
postings on LinkedIn, and then your inbox got full.
Yes.
And now, did you know you had this following prior to that?
Well, yes. Well, yes and no. I mean, I looked at the impressions, right? You always can look at the reach and things like that. And of course, with hashtags and things can, be put out there, and some people might glimpse at it. But no, to be honest, Rick, I didn't really realize the impact it had. And sometimes it felt like I was talking to a dead audience or a silent audience, or really no audience. But I just kept doing it. I just kept, I could have a dental client, I could have had an author, but I would, promote that coverage. Look where so-and-so is today on the news. They're going to be on TV tonight, tune in. So I didn't know, because there was not a lot of engagement. And now, of course, there is a lot of engagement, because I think more people now know the value of social media and liking and commenting, and we all do it for one another, and it helps. But I really felt I was talking to a dead audience, and I don't mean to say dead audience. I didn't think I really had one. I was just like, okay, if 5 liked it, there's 1,400 impressions or 700 impressions, okay, sure. But I never saw an immediate return at that time with what I was doing until the pandemic hit.
So the pandemic hits March the 15th, the world gets locked down. You've been planting all these seeds and talking about what you've been doing and promoting others. But things change. Your inbox got full. And
yes.
What was that? What was the first 6 months from March till September of 2020 like for you?
Oh, wow. It was like a blast off, like the aircraft that I've been showing off on the runway was finally loaded with fuel, and I got to 36,000 feet in about 9 minutes. My client list had quadrupled, tenfold, if you will, right away, instantly. And then what's interesting too is that I had a lot of people also call me who didn't have a big budget, but got what I was doing, what I do. They get it, but they're like, wow, we don't have a lot of money. Can you help us out? So at the same time, there was about 5 companies that during 2020, during that time, that approached me. I still helped them, Rick. I still gave them a hand. And out of those 5, 3 recently hired me earlier this year. In fact, They got their venture capital money in, some investors, and they, I mean, they're not huge contracts, but anyhow, everything skyrocketed, to make a long story short. And it was a phenomenal feeling. It really was, because everything I dreamed of was like, pow, wow, this happened.
So, this is a great story at so many levels, but, here's an example of somebody, Paul, that you had a vision of what your business could be, and you're planting seeds, and you didn't know how long or it was going to take them to grow, but you kept on watering them and doing your columns and providing information. And then the world changed. Yeah. And you, without knowing it, you had positioned yourself ideally for the new world that we were about to enter in March of 2020.
Yes. And in fact, I think that decade leading up to the pandemic, up to March 15th, 2020, I was doing everything that prepared me for that massive shift, and yeah, I'm really excited. I feel blessed. I'm a lucky man, and I work hard.
As Steve Jobs says, you're not able to connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so Correct. You look at everything you've done from right now going backwards, they've all connected to where you are today. So let's talk about the challenges and the opportunities in the type of work that you do for different companies, for different individuals. How do you see technology changing going forward? We've had this massive change in technology over the last, forever, really. Yeah. But how much more change are we going to have in the way we connect and the way we communicate on social media? I'm staggered. I was staggered when I was mayor that I wouldn't just get emails. I get direct messages on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, and now there's other apps that you can connect on. Are we going to have more of the same, or is we're heading in a different direction at all? Where do you see things going?
I see things, first off, going more video than ever. I think video is going to keep growing. Of course, there was back a day when we could write maybe a mini novel on Facebook and everyone would read it. And, here's how I'm feeling today, or, here's where I'm going out tonight, things like that. But all of a sudden, photography came along and video came along. And so I think we're going to see a lot more people doing a lot more live things on social media, where it's just going to keep amping up to another level. But Rick, when it comes to technology, I think artificial intelligence is going to be a big game changer, where, I can talk to my phone and it can just post automatically everything for me, right? Where you don't have to go to 4 different, not everyone's in a business space where they've got these software where you do one post and it goes out to everything, right? So artificial intelligence, I think, is going to be a big game changer in terms of everything: editing, what you post, how you post it, grammar, things like that. So I think we're getting ready for that era. Robots too.
A few years ago, I was reading a book by a New York Times journalist. Forget his name, doesn't matter. Yeah. Thank you for being late. And in the beginning part of the book, it shows a graph, with the amount of technology change or technological change we've had and projecting that going forward. And it was contrasting that with a line that showed humans' ability to deal with the technology. And it was very clear that the pace of technological change was going to continue, if not ramp up. And the human ability to deal with technological change was going to be very limited. And how do people deal with all this current technology, let alone technology that's coming or technology that's going to change? How do people handle I'll say craziness, but the craziness in a good and positive way with social media and all the different technology that's available to us today for so many reasons, for so many purposes?
Well, I will say one thing, and that's a very, very good question, is that they'll turn around and perhaps hire someone like me to do it for them. Yeah. It's like you're in the investment world. Am I going to embrace all the stock numbers, and do I go with bonds and things like that? Oh, I'm going to hire Rick, right? I'm going to go to an investment company that can help me with it. So I think in terms of, I think too, yeah, I mean, there's so much changing, but I think you'll see more of different spaces, a younger crowd using more video platforms, an older crowd using more photographs and thumbnail links to articles, So, but when it really comes down to it, I think you're going to see a lot more people hiring. That could even be on the personal level as well. Say, hey, I'm a blogger, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I love what I do, but I want to spend $1,000 a month to have Paul post all my stuff with my family, because I just don't have the time to do it or keep up with it. And if there's any important messages that come in on my business page or my book page or anything like that, I need someone to manage it for me. So I think that's where we're gonna proceed to. But I think we're gonna see a lot more apps too, where you can store your photographs, your memories, locations that you've been, which I think is going to be another interesting part of that technological world, is the apps, where you can swipe left to delete a photo, right to save it on an app. You can check in at different places where you've got a memory album for your whole entire life that you can give to your child, and to say, hey, look, this is where dad visited over the last 40 years. He was in Emma's back porch, he was in Spain, he was in Banff, and the photos gather with that. So kind of like Facebook, I call Facebook a moving, ongoing yearbook in a way. Now, TikTok's different, Instagram's different. I think there's different platforms, but I think they're going to continue to grow. But with it, there's going to be a lot more of a life story to what people are doing, business-wise and personal-wise.
Yeah, people like, it's one thing to put on your website what you do. It's another thing if you have a story of how your company or your services have helped somebody.
Correct.
Right. And video gives you that opportunity. And I was surprised to hear some time ago, and I'm not surprised when I think about it, that Google is the #1 search engine in the world. That wasn't a surprise. But the number 2 is YouTube.
Yes, totally.
And so
totally.
That's a testament to the comment you made about more video.
Yes.
So platforms like YouTube are only going to be more.
Correct.
And expand.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And in fact, I've been just researching now there, and I'm quite in on the app development world, but there's apps that are going to be coming out where all the videos that you do get stored on this app, and it targets everything, where it's saved for the rest of your life. Like, so as long as you live and have your phone and do your video and post it on the app. And it's just incredible. It's like there's going to be more memory books as well for people. But in terms of business, video is the way to go. And really, really quickly, is that what's interesting now too, and I think this is going to be the same moving forward, is that at one time, as when we saw a video or a commercial, had to be like picture perfect, and everyone was pretty and all dressed up. Now the bit more raw is cool. The bit more grainy or the bit more unplanned. It's like, well, I get that, right? Where I think we're seeing a lot more things becoming more real. And that's been channeled too, with mental health. I mean, there's more people talking about mental health now. Thankfully, there's more people talking about, substance abuse or money problems. I think people are being more honest now with their lives and their business and what the world is around them.
Yeah. So Paul, has your mindset changed in the last 2.5 years or so with the pandemic, and how all that spade work that you did for those years before put you in a good spot to be in a position to serve so many people since the pandemic started? Has your mindset changed?
Oh, Rick, 100%. There's no such thing as 110%. It's 100%, 100%. In fact, I got to the point late this year, and where I had had to let a couple clients go. We just didn't see the same way, and I actually got to that point. And I think I got to the point too where, and we talked earlier when we had previous conversations, I always try and do everything myself. I'll do that, right? And then as things scaled, I was like, no. I've got to get some web people. I've got to get some writers, and they get paid and I get paid, but it's helping me scale properly. So on every level, and at the same time too, my perspective now is I know what flags to look for. It's like relationships, friendships. Is that, there's good flags and there's bad flags. And the more flags you see, based on experience going, look, I don't think this client's a good fit for my business and for what I'm doing. And that's natural, So that's, yeah, absolutely. I feel a lot more comfortable now. I feel a lot less stress. Of course, when you're trying to grow, there's that stress level, and you're worried about getting paid and things like that. But at the same time too, I've learned about banking. I've learned how to, I saw a lot of people during the pandemic who had the 2 big cars, the big house, they lost it all, boom. Like, the less you have in a way, the further you have to fall. If you're sort of minimal, kind of like me in a way. I mean, I have a home-based office. I do travel, but I keep my expenses relatively low with the goal of always banking, saving my money.
Great.
Which wasn't the case before.
Well, it's been good to see you, good to visit with you, Paul. You should be very proud of what you've accomplished in your career. And as I say, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backward. And I want to say congratulations, everything you achieved. I know there's much more. And thanks for sharing your insights and your wisdom on the Mayor of Money.
Thank you so much for having me. And really quickly, if I can say this, I always interviewed you, and now the tables are turned. So it's been a pleasure as always. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for tuning in thank you to all of you for tuning in to the Mayor of Money podcast. We'll see you next time on the Mayor of Money. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Mayor of Money podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. If you'd like to have a one-on-one discussion with Rick or have an idea for a particular guest or topic, contact him at rick@rickgoldring.com. See you next time on the Mayor of Money podcast.